Hola.
Great. Podcast time, fools.
Hello, we've returned.
Today we're talking about Stranger Things, because we're not late to this party at all.
Yeah, spoiler warning, even though you've all probably seen it, because we're pretty late to the party. But we're going to be talking about Season 3, obviously, so spoilers for that. And just the whole show. So if you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. It's a good show. But yeah.
I don't know why you're watching this if you haven't seen literally any of it.
Yeah, but you know, there you go. Yeehaw. Spoiler warning. So we finished season 3 a couple of days ago. Not too long ago. We kind of we didn't get on it right away, and we wanted to rewatch the first 2 seasons before we watched season 3 because we hadn't watched it in a while, and I completely forgot how good this show is.
Yeah, so did I.
It's so good.
That's why I wasn't like, oh, Stranger Things season 3 is out, we better like watch it right now. It's just like, hey, that's cool, we'll watch it, like, whatever.
Yeah, we'll watch it
eventually.
We'll watch it when we get around to it.
I forgot how good it was.
Yes, God, we would trade and sleep to stay up late watching it, which we haven't done for a show in a while.
It's not our fault that every episode ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it gets you hooked really easily. The very first episode of the show really wastes, and to the same extent with the other seasons. Each season starts out just getting right into it. Each episode starts and ends with something that leaves you wanting more. So the title screen starts and you're like, oh man, gotta get into it. The episode ends and you're like, well, I can watch one more, right? I mean, I gotta keep watching. Gotta know what happens next. And then every season starts off just immediately setting up the characters again, setting up where they are in time, what their current situation's and then they get directly into the spooky. They waste no time. They're you do not get an episode just showing these characters that you like living their life and being happy. They are immediately...
You get a third of an episode.
You get 20 minutes at most, and then everything is hell on earth again.
Or that, the very first episode, it's you get 5 minutes of some kids playing D&D before.
Mm-hmm.
It just descends into chaos.
Yeah, they really don't waste any time in the very first episode, but they normally just don't waste time at all. They're it's happening, whether you like it or not.
Here we go. I forgot how great monster design the Demogorgon was.
10 out of 10 spooky boy.
I don't read a lot of stuff that's kind of spooky or creepy, but when I do, it's always they keep it the thing mysterious for a while, but then whenever they tell you here it is, this is what it is, it's always that's stupid,
Not all the time, but a lot of time it's they build it up so much that this is... I don't like horror for a lot of reasons. Big one, I'm a coward and a fool. But another thing is that they build it up for so long. They keep it everything's all dark and shadowy, and they don't get you a good look at the monster. And then when it's finally there, you're like, really? That's the thing that's been murdering everyone? That's just a thing, just fucking shoot it or something, it's
that's
not...
it, that's the thing, that's what you're going with.
The Demogorgon is horrifying, and
truly.
They don't build it up for that long. They build it up for a couple of episodes, which is just give you a couple horrifying, oh no, people are dying, oh no, there's creepy noises, and then when they finally show you it, you're like, oh, yep, that's horrifying, thank you. It's 9 feet tall and skeletal, but it looks like
muscly.
it's really skinny, and like sinewy and muscly, and it looks like it's got no skin, and its mouth opens up into a horrible flower full of teeth.
Yeah, that's just as horrifying as like what you were building it up to be. And then they go a little bit bigger, less with season 2. Like there's the shadow monster who is sufficiently ominous, but not as like viscerally terrifying as the Demogorgon.
Yeah, like it's very ominous, not as much up on the horror factor. My friend is calling me.
And they keep it. They keep the shadow monster pretty like mysterious. Like the Demogorgon, they don't like go too much into detail. It's basically just like it's a bloodthirsty thing from another dimension. No more explanation required. But the shadow monster seems a little more like it's more intelligent.
It's
the
got
Demogorgon.
It's got a plan.
Yeah,
the Demogorgon's just trying to eat.
Yeah, the Demogorgon's just like a interdimensional like panther, basically.
Well, it's a little bit it's like worse than the animals in our world, because unlike how animals in our world behave, it doesn't only attack you if it feels threatened or if it's hungry. It will just kill you, take a couple chunks out, and then leave.
It's just that's like all it is. But like the shadow monster, it's got like a brain. It has
a plan, it has a conscience, and it's not as viscerally horrifying as the Demogorgon, but it is quite ominous, and it is pretty terrifying to have a tiny little middle school boy be like, he likes it cold.
Yeah, that was pretty horrifying.
The whole like demonic possession element of it was pretty solid.
At least it wasn't
creepy.
as viscerally horrifying as the Demogorgon until season 3. Then they topped it.
The Mind Flayer design can absolutely fuck right off with that. It's horrifying. It's brilliant, and I hate it.
Can you stop yelling so loud?
No.
Yeah, it is absolutely great design. 10 out of 10. I hate it. Meat Monster was not what I wanted.
I really do not like it. I really was not, like... Okay, so before we watched season 3, we heard a couple of people mention things about it, and then they were like literally, we were at Hot Topic, and one of the cashiers was talking to somebody about it, and the cashier was like, oh, it's just like a little bit more fun. And I was like, that's cool. I knew that the director said that they were gonna like give Will a bit of a break, and I was like, so maybe there's gonna be like a little bit of spook, some like strings getting tied up, but like it's gonna be, and then like a little bit more fun. And then they were like, 30 seconds in, rats are exploding on screen.
Meat
Monster is here. There is no rest for you.
Will did get a break.
He
didn't get, he wasn't the target this time around. He was like the alarm. Yeah, he was able to sense the shadow monster.
Yeah, but he did get a break. Thank God. He deserves it. He's been through enough.
Yeah.
But who's not getting a break? Anyone whose name starts with B. If your last name starts with a B, like for instance, the Bayous family, get ready to suffer. And if your first name starts with a B, get ready to die horribly. 'Cause you will.
Seriously, there's Barbara in season 1.
Bob in season 2.
And Billy in season 3.
Yep.
It's like they got a quota. They have to kill off one person with a B name every season.
Yeah, and then the Bayous just get some suffer in there, Yeah. They consistently have a rough time, but none of them die.
Yeah, maybe you should answer the phone for your friend.
Maybe
we can
I
pause
should.
the thing.
Okay. Cool beans.
Alright, well, we just got put on a time limit.
Let's go. Luckily, we don't have a ton written down because even though I deeply enjoy this show, I was blanking. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
There's a
yeah.
lot more blood this season, mainly because of the meat monster.
Yeah, mainly because of the meat monster. I texted you back, fool.
Truly disgusting. Still. That's the worst thing I've ever had to see in my life. It's the fucking meat monster.
I hate the meat monster. What good character design. And see, I wasn't sure, you know, if I was told before I watched this show that there was going to be a horrific meat monster, I don't think I would think that I would like it, because again, I'm not a fan of horror. But the great thing about Stranger Things is that other than the meat monster, it's not really like a horror show. It has like, horror elements.
Maybe like
to
it's
it.
like dark fantasy sci-fi thing.
Yeah, it's dark fantasy. I enjoy a dark fantasy. It has a little bit more horror elements to it than the usual dark fantasy, but I enjoy that. I also enjoy some off the walls kind of nonsense. And the show's very weird.
Shit,
it's very weird. It's very cryptic.
I don't know what we would expect from a show called Stranger Things.
Yes.
But,
But I think one of the things that's interesting about that is that while it appeals to me with its weirdness, it also doesn't turn away, like, fans that like a more grounded show. Because it's not like it's like the Umbrella Academy or something. Like, it makes sense.
It's like...
There's, like, some weird shit, but nothing that's, like, too completely, like, off the walls.
Because they took advantage of, like, the interdimensional thing, where it's, like, they made that, the whole dimension, the other dimension thing feel pretty grounded, but then because it's another dimension, there are no rules.
Yeah.
So, they took a lot of things that aren't super weird, like a mind control demon, or just a weird predator thing that wants to eat people. And they just made it, like, look weirder.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, act weird. They just added some, like, weird stuff on top, but, like, a lot of the core parts of it aren't, like, super off the walls. Like, they had, like, a predator that tries to eat people. Isn't that weird of a thing? And, like, creepy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But a weird thing that wants to eat people that's face opens into a flower full of teeth. That's pretty weird.
Yeah.
The thing with the lights, that's pretty weird.
That's pretty weird, yeah. But, like, again, it doesn't, like... And I like that about it. I like that it doesn't, make complete sense and that there's, like, some weird things. And I like that Eleven's powers aren't, like, completely explained. Like, they don't tell you exactly, like, what her powers, like, are.
They just, like, show you.
They, like, show you what they are, and they don't show you really, like, parameters for it. Like, it's not super concrete what she can and can't do, but, like, everything kind of has, like, the same aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't, like...
Alright. So we got interrupted.
Yeah, so there's just, like, a really abrupt break there, but we were talking about Eleven's powers.
Yeah. And it's been a couple hours.
It's been, like, a day.
We were recording this yesterday.
Yeah.
So we might repeat things on accident.
I think I have a pretty good idea of what we've already talked about, though.
Okay.
But yeah, Eleven's powers are interesting, and, like, they're not super, like, well explained, but they all have, like, a similar aesthetic, even though they kind of don't feel like they should.
Yeah.
Like,
You say you know what we've already talked about, but then you proceed to reiterate the thing we literally just listened to.
Because I was in the middle of talking about it. Fool! I'm not just gonna dive into the middle of a sentence that I didn't even have planned.
Well, obviously, but...
But, like, you wouldn't think of, like, telekinesis and, like... the weird, like, void place that she could go in as, like, fitting together, but, like, they do.
Yeah.
and it's like everything's just kind of like a little like everything's kind of like a little spooky, and like everything like you can tell that there are rules to her powers, but you don't really know what they are.
Yeah.
And then I like the like how like she like bleeds from her nose when she uses them, and then like, you know, if she uses them like a lot, then she can start like bleeding from the ears and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
I think the
interesting
rules
touch.
are that her powers seem to be potentially able to do like she has the telekinesis and the radio thing, and they seem to have the potential to be able to do basically whatever she wants, but like it just takes a lot of effort, and she'll like pass out if she tries too hard.
Yeah.
So it's like,
But it's
potentially.
yeah, but it's interesting and it's weird, and they don't explain it very well, which I enjoy, but also it's like not so off the rails that someone that wants to know what's going on is gonna be like, okay, I can't watch this, it's too confusing, you know?
Well, everyone wants to know what's going on.
Well, yeah, but like, who wants everything, you know,
To be
explained?
Yeah.
Like, you know, there are some people like me that's just down to be like, ah, whatever, you know, like that's just
Hand
how it
waving
works.
is fine, like.
Like, I understand very little in real life. I don't need to understand this person's powers. I mean, like, if you explain them to me, I'm gonna be like, cool, and I'd like to have, you know, a basic idea of what they can do, but I don't need to know the inner machinations of it, you know?
If you
But
just, like, hand wave, like, half of everything, that's, like, fine.
Yeah, but a lot of people do like that. But they can still, like, watch the show without that being too, you know...
Horrifying.
Yeah.
I don't know if did we talk about the Russians?
We have not talked about the Russians.
That's not... Evil Russians isn't where I thought this show was gonna go. Like, based on the first 2 seasons, but I guess there's at least so many times something can go wrong in that lab, and then have them cover it up, and then be like, okay, and then get shut down temporarily, and then come back with, like, a new people before people are like, this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, have that happen once, and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. If something goes wrong again and they get shut down, then it's like, if you keep bringing it back, it'll just start to get a little, like, repetitive, I guess. So then,
Yeah.
Evil Russians.
Which, I mean, really though, like, I thought, like, it's just very funny because throughout the first 2 seasons of the show, people are like, it's the Russians, and they have that, like, crazy conspiracy theorist guy, and it's like, the 80s, the Cold War, and then in the 3rd season they were like, hey, there actually are evil Russians, and it's like, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Extremely cool. One of the Russians wasn't evil, though. He just wanted a Woody Woodpecker stuffed animal and, like, a fucking icy.
He just wanted to live his life.
He just wanted to live his life, alright? He deserved better. Yeah. His name didn't start with a B, did it?
No.
They killed someone whose name didn't start with a B.
Wow.
Wow. Way to go. They went with the letter directly preceding in the alphabet. Way to branch out, you guys.
if you want to be safe in Stranger Things, just have a name that starts with, like, a Z.
Yeah, they just slowly start working their way down the alphabet. They just started with B for some reason.
And they're like, no, wait, we have to backtrack to A. And then we can continue.
Yeah. I think season 3 was definitely slapping. I don't think it was. I think I liked... I don't know which season is my favorite.
I think the first season is still my favorite.
I kind of like season 2. I don't know. It's like, I really like all of them. And season 1 is definitely got, you know, the points for being, like, the first one where, like, everything's like, whoa, this is super cool.
I think that's why I like the first
I
one
like...
so much, because everything is, like, new, and they built up, like, the reveals.
They
like,
built it up
the
really
things,
well.
like, really well. You can't really replicate that once people have a general idea of what things are. Mm-hmm. So,
but I enjoyed the introduction of the Mind Flayer, and I liked like the whole like map thing that they did.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. In this season, the buyer's house didn't get covered in a bunch of shit.
Yeah, Hopper's house got fucking wrecked though. And I really like, you know, like the father-daughter relationship between like Hopper
that's always
and 11.
cute. They actually like literally said it. Like you referred to 11 as his daughter, which makes
because
sense.
she is now. They literally like got him a birth certificate that says that she is his child.
He adopted her in a really, like, kind of a shady way.
In a really sketchy back alley sort of way.
But, like, usually in, like, shows, though, they have that kind of relationship, and it's, like, it's pretty obvious that that's what it is, but they don't, like, ever, like, say it, but it's like, no, he just straight up adopted it. There you go.
Yeah.
It's what you all wanted, probably. Anyway.
It is what I wanted. So a lot of people didn't really like season 3. Or, like, they liked it, but they were kind of like, eh.
I mean,
but I think it's even if it's not my favorite, I still think it's, you know,
I didn't like it as much as the first 2 seasons, but I still really liked it.
The aesthetic is so aggressively 80s. Like, it is a full-on bombardment of just ugly bowling alley clothes and every 2 seconds there's an 80s pop song playing. Like, they did that in the other seasons, but, like, not to that extent.
It was, like, half. It was, like 75% of the soundtrack.
It's, like...
was, that, and it was 80s pop songs, and the other 25% was that one fucking song that's, like, a remix of the theme song, but, like, softer, more emotional.
It's just... Like, I guess 1985 was just the peak year of the 80s because they just went full...
They just went
like,
ham.
Neon, mall rat, shitty clothes that I love.
Yeah.
It's so great.
They really went.
Kind of adore it. We already mentioned Will getting a break, correct?
Yeah,
he deserves.
So. He deserves that.
He did deserve a break. He really needed it. He really deserved. He really deserved it. And another thing just about the show in general is that I like how there tends to be like 3 distinct group of people.
Yeah.
Like,
usually, the first 2 seasons, it was like kids, teens, adults.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like, you know, the main cast of kids are like 11 and Mike and Lucas and Dustin and Max.
Yeah.
And that's all of them, right?
Will.
Why did I forget Will?
Literally, we're just talking about Will.
Maybe that's why I, like, didn't say him, because he was already in my brain. And, you know, sometimes they get changed out a little bit. Like, Will wasn't really in the first season that much. Yeah. He was more like, the inciting incident, and then he was in it, like, a little bit, but he was just kind of, like, what the story revolved around, and he wasn't, like, actually on screen that much.
And then there's the adults, with his basically just Joyce and Hopper.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then there's the teens, which is, like, Nancy, Jonathan, and, like, Steve.
Yeah.
But then this season, they, like, mix up, like, Dustin, Steve, Robin, that one girl.
I love Robin.
Robin's great.
Robin's absolutely slapping.
I like Robin. And then...
I hope in the next season she's in an outfit that's not the sailor one, because I guarantee she's a grunge bitch.
Definitely.
Guarantee it.
And then there was Jonathan and Nancy. They were still just in a group together.
They were still just on their own, you know.
Joyce and Harper were also still just going at it on their own.
Yeah, and then there was, like, the biggest group of... like, well, I guess it was the same size as it was in season 2, but for some reason it feels like they were together for more of it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because they were more unified, because it wasn't like Mike was just like, I don't like Max.
Yeah, they were all friends.
Yeah. And 11 and Max's friendship is
That was
slapping.
great. I like that.
Stop
saying everything is slapping. Jesus Christ.
I like it. It's very wholesome.
It is.
11, deserves a friend that can just treat her like a human person.
Yeah.
Which, all of them do, but
a normal friend.
Yeah.
Who's not a freak.
Yeah, who's not a freak. And 11's just, I like how much they show her progress throughout the show. She learns more words and, figures out more about, what she, actually likes.
Yeah. Self-discovery.
Self-discovery, because her horrible dad just kept her in a room for, 11 to 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. I just like how they show her growth. Sometimes very literally through the growth of her hair. Which I really like her short hair because I'm partial to short hair. But I see why she's, growing it out. Because, she was forced to keep it short for, her whole life. And it probably, reminds her of, being trapped in a lab. So, that's valid.
Season 4, she just has hair down to the floor.
Yeah. I also like her new aesthetic.
Bowling
alley shirts.
Bowling alley carpet.
Very strong. Shit, I don't have that much else written down.
Well... having it set in the 80s is honestly, a good plot device.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have to deal with, because one thing that's becoming increasingly a problem, with plots for shows and movies and stuff is cell phones and the internet.
Yeah, it's if you set them in, the modern age, you always gotta come up with, some shitty excuse as to why they can't use those things.
Yeah.
But if it's in the 80s... you just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But then if you also need a way for the characters to get some information quickly, but you can't, there's no way for them to get it because they don't have the internet, just have convenient science teacher.
Yeah.
Who asks no questions.
Despite the increasingly specific and insane questions.
Yeah.
I hope eventually he ends up figuring out what the fuck is going on.
Eventually it gets too specific and, too concerning, and he eventually just figures it out. But yeah, no pesky internet or cell phones to ruin the pacing of the show. Have people be like, why aren't they just using these?
Yeah.
Going back to the 3 distinct group of characters, because we didn't really elaborate on it that much, there's, I enjoy that because they're, 3 separate groups, and they don't really, talk to each other that much.
They
at
did
least not in the
this
beginning.
season
And
more.
this season they did more,
They
but,
finally figured that out.
yeah.
Nancy and Jonathan and the kids started talking to each other pretty quickly.
Yeah, but it's for the first 2 seasons and the third one to an extent, it's they kind of are all just on their own, doing their own thing. They're following their own leads. They get their own evidence. And they're piecing together their own little puzzle and chasing after different kind of plot points. But then it's always they end up figuring they end up figuring things out at the same time. That's one thing about the show. Everything always happens at the same time.
Everything always, there's, the slow build-up and people figuring stuff out, and they always come to, the big, huge conclusion. They all come to, the big, huge conclusion of the thing they were figuring out at the same time. So it's this, nice, like, pacing that's, like, going along, but kind of, like, slow, and then suddenly it's just like, everything, go, go, go.
They're just cutting between, like, 3 different groups of people in 3 different settings, and everything is happening, and you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna die.
But it's like, with this particular season, they all figured out, sort of, like, usually they come to basically the same conclusion, just in different ways, but this time they've come up with something different. Like, some of them found the Russians.
Yeah.
The adults and the teenagers. Well, not the teenagers. Steve and Dustin and Robin and Lucas's sister all found the Russians. The adults also figured out the Upside Down was involved.
Yeah.
Somehow. That they didn't, like... And then the kids found the mind of Leia.
Yeah.
And Jonathan and Nancy.
But see, like, that's
so
the
it's like
thing.
the
like,
four
they all...
groups came to, like, half of it.
Yeah, but it's like, that's the thing. They all end up, like, figuring out their own puzzle, and then at the end they find out it's the same puzzle and everything's
leads them
connected.
to the same place, even if they don't all come to the exact same conclusions.
Yeah, and then it's cool to watch because, like, you can see them all figuring out their own things separately, and then you can piece it together. And then, like, you end up kind of being able to piece it together before the characters do, because you get to see all 3 groups going at once.
4 in season 3's case.
Yeah. So it's always fun to just see them, like, figure the things out at the same time and then go kick some ass. It's always good.
Also, having it just set in, like, a small town... with, like, and having the main characters be people who honestly have no business really being involved in any of this shit. Like, the closest person to someone who's, like, prepared for this is Hopper, and he's not even... he really shouldn't be having to deal with this. Because it leads to, like, weird shit like, the fireworks. They stole a bunch of fireworks to attack the interdimensional demon because they live in a small town, and they just sort of have to, like... It gives it a very interesting, like, terrain. Like, the big, like, climactic fight at the end was in the middle of a mall.
Yeah.
And, like...
It's, like, not big, like, city-rending things, like in a lot of, like, action movies where it's like, oh, the buildings are falling down and there's civilians everywhere. It's like, they normally just end up in, like, some kind of field or some shit.
Someone's house.
Someone's house.
The mall.
The mall.
People...
The lab. Like, they're not in, like, high traffic zones. They're just, like... Like, literally one of the main, areas in the first and second season is, like, a junkyard with a bus.
Yeah, it's like...
And, like, they're just, like, there.
It gives it very unique terrain. And also, one problem with a lot of urban fantasy is trying to justify how, like, not everyone knows about stuff. Urban fantasy is, like...
Yeah, I know.
Okay? If you don't know what urban fantasy is, it's fantasy that's, like, set in Earth without, like, any, like... Well, can't have major changes, but, like, usually it's, like, hidden. So people don't have to bother, like, writing about how the history would be completely different or whatever.
Yeah.
But they, like, handle it pretty well, because it's like, well, it's governments. A lot of it, like, trudging up all the interdimensional shit. So they're just trying to cover it up, and no one else mentions it, because they don't want to feel like, people won't believe them. They literally said they
don't want to get, like, killed by the government.
And no one would believe them. They addressed that several times. Because, one thing is like, well, why don't they tell people? It's like, oh, because I can't believe... Well, no one would believe them. They literally addressed that several... Like, in the first season, Joyce is saying all this weird stuff, and everyone just thinks she's losing it.
Because her son's missing. They literally added a conspiracy theorist character who, like, actually has a pretty good idea of what's going on and, like, eventually does know exactly what's going on, but everyone's still like, yeah, whatever, crackpot. Like, the one guy. What's his name? The guy that speaks Russian.
The journalist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. It's like Murray or something.
Yeah. So, and then it's like they also, in season 2, they have a plot where Nancy and Jonathan try to tell people, and with the journalist dude, like they bring that recording, like the guy admitting to being involved with Bubba's death and stuff. So they like, and then he's like, yeah, no one will believe you, or they won't want to. So as soon as someone comes up with anything slightly more likely of an explanation, which won't be hard, people will believe that instead. So then they like change the story a bit.
Yeah, so that's another good way. And
then they also don't have to justify why people don't notice any of the weird shit, because they kind of do. Like at season 1, they're like, sure, like, not season 1, at the end of season 3, they have that like news report about how it's like there are all these mysterious deaths and like missing people and like all these weird unexplained events. And so it's like people are noticing.
So it's like yeah, it's like what's up with Hawkins? Like literally before all like a couple of years ago, everyone was like, oh, this is a town where nothing ever happens, and now it's like everyone's dying mysteriously and going missing, and there's people like, you know, getting killed by chemical leakage, and
malls are burning down inexplicably.
Everything's weird. So they are kind of noticing it, just not enough yet.
So this is a good take.
Yeah.
So they are noticing, they just conveniently didn't see the 30-foot tall meat monster.
I hate the meat monster. I hate the meat monster. Also, I just like the characterizations of a lot of the characters. Like, I think we talked about this a little bit, but not these specific points. Like, Hopper in the first season was set up perfectly to be like that, like 80s like sitcom-esque character where they're just
not even like
well, it's like lazy or like small town cop that like doesn't want to do anything and like gets in the main character's way like, because he's like because like he just like blows off everything that they try to tell him and then
doesn't believe them.
Doesn't believe them.
Uncooperative and basically just a character there to justify why these normal people aren't calling the police, because the police are useless.
Yeah, and they're like, you know, like, especially since a lot of the main cast is kids, they'd be like trying to go somewhere and like get answers, and he'd be like, hey, what are you kids doing here? Go away. And like, he's set up so perfectly to be that guy,
kind
like
of
he's
petty antagonist.
Yeah, like he just kind of shows up Monday morning eating donuts and drinking beer at work and being like, you're worrying too much, Joyce. And then the second that things start getting slightly suspicious, he's like, alright, hard-ass cop mode engaged. And he does it every time. Like, in the beginning of the second season, too, he went back to, like, lazy hometown cop, and then things... And then he's like, oh, my pumpkins are rotting. And he was like, here we go again.
Well, at first he was just sort of like, sure, whatever. And then he went there and he was like, fuck, here we go. And then the other cops are like, what?
The other cops are like, what? But they're not, like, big enough characters for that, for them to, like, get in the way.
Hopper's, just... like, in charge of them, so they may be like, why are you so worried about this? And he'd just be like, just do it. And they're like, okay.
They're like, okay, whatever, you're paying a check, you're giving us a paychecks, I guess. Like, they're not getting in anybody's way, they're just kind of, like, comically bumbling.
Yeah.
Hopper's just so great, man.
We stan Hopper.
We do. And then I like how they portray the kids, because one, the child actors are all the actors are really fucking good. But the child ones especially, because a lot of times when you have, like, you know, like, a lot of time, I mean, they're not, like, super young or anything,
they're
so
like
it's not, like...
14, 15.
Yeah, it's not like they're, like, 6, you know? Like, normally when you're, like, in a high school, like, middle school age, you're, like, pretty good, but they're, like, really good.
Which is really important, because it's, like, usually things that have main characters, usually things, like, the main characters are the same age as, like, the target audience.
Yeah.
So, like, a movie that stars kids is usually for kids, so you can kind of get away with them not being that great at acting.
Yeah.
But this show has a despite the fact that the main characters are like middle schools. Well, some of them are also like adults, and some of them are
some of them are adults.
It's targeted towards like young adults and like older.
It's like
that's the target demographic.
Yeah.
So they would notice if the child actors were like kind of cruddy.
But they're not. They're really good, and I forgot how good they are, to be honest. Like, I remember I was watching The Umbrella Academy, and I was just like, wow, Aiden Gallagher's really good, which he is. He's really good. But I was like, I don't think I've ever seen, like, an actor his age that's, like, so good at this. And then I was rewatching Stranger Things, and I was like, oh, yeah, I have. It's like, they're all very believable. And I think Aiden Gallagher needs, like, a different set of skills because he's not playing, like, a 13-year-old. Like, he's playing, like, a 58-year-old who's looks 13. But, like, they're really good at playing kids their age, which a lot of times, you know, you're not.
That's basically the same as, like, an adult pretending to be, you know, acting as an adult character. Mm-hmm. They always do, so...
Yeah, it's like...
that's not easy.
No, it's not. And then it's like, they're very well written, like, middle school, early high schoolers. Like, they do dumb shit a lot. Like, that's another, like a good choice for the story, is that, like, it's good to, like... They did, like, a lot of times in, like, things with horror elements, like, you know, that's the joke, like, everyone in horror movies are, like, stupid. And it's like, they're not... Well, one, they're not stupid. But when they do something stupid, it's like... Okay, but they're like 12. They're like literally 12. Like literally, they're in like 7th grade.
What do you expect from them? They're 12.
Yeah, it's like they don't tell their parents things. They go out, they like try to like fight monsters with like fireworks and slingshots.
I mean, the fireworks works, explosives.
But the slingshot
never did.
not a good plan. But it's like, and you know, you can get away with that because they're kids. They're not supposed to know how to do this shit. But luckily for them, they've got one kick-ass 12-year-old that knows her shit, and then they've got some kick-ass adults to come save them, who like actually believe them.
Hopper, Joyce, and Eleven are just, like, the kick-ass tree, like, power tree. Everyone else is just running around trying to keep up.
Like, they are consistently badass. They're consistently getting shit done, and then everyone else has their shining moments, and then spends the rest of the time, like, you know, contributing, obviously, but, like, kind of being like, fuck, I'm not prepared to do this. Which is valid, because they're a bunch of kids/teens from Hawking, Indiana. Hawkins, Indiana. I was like, I said Hawking, and I was like, that's not
Hawkins,
Hawkins, Indiana.
Hawking, Indiana.
Stop. Alright, I misspoke. Leave me be. I don't have anything else written down.
Well, there's the ending.
Alright, I do have something written down.
Discuss.
If you don't show me a body, he's not fucking dead. Fuck you and your story.
No body, no death. Fuck off. You didn't even show him get blown up. You just cut to like 3 random extras who were standing around with him and getting disintegrated.
I mean, you know, on one hand, I am holding on to that as being like, he's definitely not dead. But also, if they might have just been like, I don't think people want to be seeing that.
They didn't give a shit when they were showing Jonathan cutting open Eleven's leg, did they?
Yeah, but there's a difference between
I don't think anyone wanted to be seeing that either.
But there's a difference between cutting open Eleven's leg and like, here's this beloved character imploding.
I got 11 getting disintegrated in the first season. No, they did the exact same thing to 11, though. She's like, oh, she's disintegrated. She's totally dead. No, she's not. But it doesn't disintegrate anybody.
Didn't they show her at the end of that season, though?
Yes.
Yeah. But also at the end of the 3rd season, they were getting
it was like a Marvel mid-credits.
Oh, like a Marvel. I like almost toned it off and I was like, why is there upside down dust? Which I actually think it was snow, but because they were in
but
Russia,
I was like,
but...
if it, and I was like, it's gonna like pan, like the credits are gonna fade away. It's just gonna like pan up and be like.
I'm kind of happy that there's going to be a 4th season because the end of season 3 kind of seemed like
ending.
Like an ending, like, you know, like the Bayous are moving away and Eleven's moving with them.
Does she like live with them now?
I wondered if that's what they were going to do, and I'm assuming that's what they're doing since she's leaving with them. But I was wondering because it's like, you know, like Hopper was her guardian, so it was like, who would she live with? And it's like, well, obviously the Bayous, since they're the only ones that have, like, a parent that, like, knows what's going on and, like, who she is.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, they moved away, 11 moved away, the Mind Flayer got fucking blasted, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm happy there's gonna be a season 4, because I do really enjoy the show. And, Hopper's gonna come back.
Definitely.
At the end, they had, like, a Marvel, like, you know, stinger, and then it was in Russia, and then they were getting someone to feed to the Demogorgon. Leave me alone. I already speak shittily enough and my face hurts. You can only use that excuse for so long. Maybe so. But that donut really fucked my jaw. Anyway. And they were like, no, not the American.
This other guy.
So they have an American prisoner who they're keeping around for some reason, and I fully believe it's Hopper, fuck you.
No body, no death.
No. If you ain't showing me a body, I ain't believing he's dead. That's the rule of law now.
Especially when you try to be like, oh no, this character is dead, and like you didn't show a body in the first season, and they weren't dead.
Yeah. It's like the Loki thing, though Loki is actually dead, isn't he?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that alternate universe version of it isn't that.
He just rolls up in Thor Love and Thunder, like, hello, brother. And then Thor's like, it's been 7 years!
This is not what we're talking about.
This is not remotely the point. The point is Hopper's not dead, and you can't change my mind.
About that.
Yeah, you're not killing off the best character in the show.
Also, I totally called that Hopper and Joyce were gonna be a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Totally called that.
It was like, I remember when I watched it the first time, I was kind of like, and then I was rewatching it, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
150%. And, yeah,
we
there
were
you
right.
go. That's another reason Hopper is not allowed to be dead. He's still gotta go to dinner with Joyce. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I want to say. It's a very good show. I enjoyed season 3. Excited for season 4. It's a very unique show with a lot of, like, writing elements that I particularly enjoy. So, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a little shorter than normal, but leave us alone.
That's okay.
Well, yeah. Podcast over. Hopper's not dead. Bye.